Well, I wouldn't be as schematic as that. First, I don't think the organization is totally dysfunctional. It works. And there's still lots of it working in terms of notification, peer review, discussion. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why the Europeans, and by the way, China, agreed to have a sort of provision patch. So overall, it's not working the way it should, in my view, but I'm not saying it's going to die in the next year. There's a lot that is still happening, and most WTO members need a strong rule-based multilateral trading system in order to provide the necessary stability, predictability, transparency for international trade, which remains a major engine of global growth. So yes, there are problems that need to be fixed. And what you mentioned, which is that the Trump administration tried to paralyze the dispute settlement system, is a big problem. I'm not saying that the US do not have the right to believe that some decisions by the appellate body could have been in another direction than the one it was. And I've never heard the US, nor anybody, by the way, complain about the dispute settlement system when they win cases. They always complain when they lose cases, of course.
Right.
So I think the US made a big mistake in paralyzing the appellate body, including against their own interests, because it is in the interest of the US that every country, including China, by the way, abides by the rule, and if not, be taken to dispute settlement. So I think it reveals a view of the US that, after all, WTO might not matter. And I think this is the big problem behind this attitude. It was very specific to the Trump administration. I think the Biden administration has a different talk about this, a different vision, although so far we haven't seen the concrete traces of this. So the big question behind this is, are the US still of the view, which has been the case for the last 75 years, that having solid rules for international trade is the way to go? Or do they believe that at the end of the day, they are strong enough to be able to survive in what would be a jungle? This is, in my view, the big strategic question. Well, I think that's a very important question. And as I already mentioned, the big issue with the WTO for the moment is the US ready to re-engage on the one side, and that's a precondition to solve the second question, which is China ready to accept changes in the rules of the WTO, sort of WTO reform, in areas where China will accept more disciplines. It should not be the only one to accept more discipline. There also should be more disciplines on farm subsidies, for instance, and this is a problem for the US, less for China, although the subsidization of agriculture in China has enormously increased for the last 20 years. So question number one, are the US ready to re-engage? This is an open question at this stage. Second, would China accept more disciplines in some areas? And if the answer to question number one would be no, the US will not re-engage anytime soon for whatever reasons, then we have to think of a system which would regulate trade, including in disputes, among the WTO members who are willing to keep a multilateral rules-based organization. It simply will be, in some cases, less multilateral and more plurilateral. I know it's a difficulty, and I would not like this. It's only a sort of plan B, but it might be to be considered whether, if the US do not engage, then other members build a system while leaving the door open to the US. So it's a big strategic conversations which we need to have.